It was pretty different from nowadays, much different, but it was not as bad as some people try to say.
It was quite tough at the beginning because after the war ended, the country was devastated.
The society was different. The main point, the main difference between the society of those days and today's is the feeling of safety, equality and solidarity, which was present in those days to a much bigger extent than today. There was no fear of not finding a job or losing a job or something. There were plenty of jobs you could do. You could easily find one, change if it didn't suit you. When you started to work, you got all the other benefits of the society. You could get loans from the banks or even apartments.
Yeah, everything was encouraged by the government. First, this primary compulsory 8-year education was introduced, I think, in the beginning of the 50s.
With school, it was the same as with work. There were a lot of opportunities, and really everybody could go to school. The elementary school was obligatory, as it's the case in practically all the country.
I remember that we had a great childhood. We were playing around. It was great. I think it was better than it is now for children.
It didn't depend that much on the welfare of the family.
In the education and in the healthcare, there was also once more big differences between South and North.
Well, I think it was much easier. I mean, nobody was so worried about children. We didn't have any troubles with white vans that we see today, that people are trying to get children in van and kidnap them or giving them some candies or something like that. So it was, I think security was much better for us, like a children. Probably our parents didn't see the same way then, but yeah, that's how I see it.
There were no people who were really rich and very few who were really poor. So we were somehow the majority, more or less the same. And the differences in school between children were pretty small either.
Communist side, of course, they will tell you, yeah, of course there was freedom in Yugoslavia, but if you tell the other part, they will tell you, no, of course there was not, everything was controlled, we were under observation all the time. It depends on who you ask.
As for political freedom, there was a political line which somehow, well, you didn't even have to follow, but somehow it was not wise to resist it, because otherwise you might have problems.
Here, I think in Yugoslavia, there were much more freedom, as it was really in the eastern part of Europe.
The possibility of travel depended more on your money than the lack of passport. Spain was among the countries which was closed, that we must say. Spain and Portugal, until the changes in these two countries, they were practically closed to us.
I just remember that we went every 2 or 3 weeks to Austria, and the most thing that I remember is that we bought bananas there, and oranges, and some jeans sometimes.
Went to Austria, we went to Italy, and got there everything what we didn't get here.
But going to America or somewhere was not easy. For us it was even more difficult and more complicated to go to Eastern European states than, let's say, to the United States or France or Great Britain or whatever. Going to the Soviet Union was never easy, and it was never free.
Back then began this economic crisis, but it broke out after Tito died.
We felt sad, and of course we were a little bit worried, because in Tito's last month, when he was getting weaker and weaker, it was becoming evident that things will change, and we became aware of the conflicts.
We cried, not all, of course, and because Tito was the leader for 45 years, and also between the war he was the war leader, and he was one of the people, of the last people which survived from the Second World War, from these leaders from the Second World War. The referendum, which took place on 23rd of December 1990, was quite, I could say, happy day for the majority.
We were all aware this thing was about to happen. We knew the result and everything, so we're not surprised. It was not a surprise, and of course we did feel glad and so on, but it was not a kind of a surprise or something. We took it as something normal, let's say.
I do remember, partly remember. I know that war started because my father was working as policeman, so he was at work all the time. We had to be in the shelter during that war, but otherwise it was not very special. I mean, we were still playing outside like children, playing football, running around, so we didn't feel that as much as older people.
People feel nostalgic because they say, well, yeah, in the 60s, in the 70s, we got jobs, we could afford to go to the vacation. Now we cannot, I don't know, we could go out shopping.
Well, for some people life is better today, but I think for most people, that middle class, life was better at that time. They all had jobs, they were working from 6 to 2 or 7 to 3, and they had a lot of free time in the afternoon to play with children, to do something with them. But today you have to work from morning to evening if you want to survive.
So of course it's better. We have much more stuff, we can buy more, we can afford more, but from that point of view, it's better. But there are some things which I miss, as I said. Solidarity, equality, and the feeling of safety.
It's better than in the Yugoslavia, yes, in terms of economic consumption.
In those times, you were never alone. You knew that if something happened, you could always count on something or somebody. Some politicians, especially from the right side of the politics, try to convince us that life was horrible, that we are being exploited and so on in those days, but the majority doesn't feel that way.
Yes, there are people, and I actually think every day there is more people that are nostalgic and would like to have Yugoslavia back. Maybe not in the same way as it was, but if you look on I don't know, political would not be good to go back in that time, but like nations, I think it would be good. So yeah, many people miss that times.